Who is the most spoiled person you know and why? Story 1. There was a kid in my fraternity whose parents were literally billionaires. We actually had a couple of them, but this kid was just dumb rich for making the dean's list one semester. His parents let him get any car he wanted under 100,000. I am not making this up. Kid got pissed because the package he wanted on his Jaguar F-Type made it over 100K, and his parents said fine after enough protest. At least I got to drive it sometimes, though. Sick car. Edit Waso's edit to those asking. Know the dean's list is not easy at my school. Won't name it, but it's a small lib arts college that's usually ranked top 25 on U.S. News. So it's not like it was super easy. Also, the kid's actually a great dude, just doesn't really realize how lucky he is. Story 2. This kid I went to high school with got a Porsche for his 16th birthday. Keep in mind 16 in my state is when you can get a permit. So he didn't even have a license. He got a new one later in high school after backing out into a tree. He basically was handed admission to an Ivy League school because his grandparents had donated a building. Story 3. A girl I am friends with graduated college with an engineering degree, had a great job making tons of money, which she quit because a guy whistled at her. She worked as a waitress for 20 hours a week and got pregnant. Her parents buy her a house with the expectation that she pays them rent. She stays at this house, which is beautiful BTW, for 6 months and never pays the rent. Her baby daddy lost his job and spends his days playing video games. She gets in an argument with her parents and moves in with her BFS parents. She then gets in an argument with his parents and asks to move back home. Her parents let her move back home, rent-free, utilities paid for, and they watch her baby most days. Story 4. My cousins, my aunt and uncle can never say no to them, and they have now drained my grandmother's small fortune. My other uncle contributed to that as well, but now my grandmother is selling her place and moving to a smaller one because of how much money she has had to give to that side of the family. I love them, but they're just spoiled as can be. Story 5. My college roommate and former best friend grew up spoiled as an only child, huge 5-bed house for the 3 of them, fancy truck to play with bells and whistles, daddy's credit card. When I got engaged, I asked her to be my maid of honor, and she told me no because she couldn't approve of my marriage. The reason? He didn't have a bachelor's degree. So she was just certain that we couldn't be happy. 8 years, 2 kids later, am still poor but very happy and have my smoking hot karate instructor husband who turned out to be a much better deal than making a spoiled princess happy. Edit, I never imagined this particular story to be such a hot topic. I had plenty of other issues that came up over the years. This was just icing on the cake. Also, by poor I mean what society believes to be poor. We make ends meet and are not left wanting, but make less than the median income for our area by a decent stretch. Story 6. Girl I went to college whose parents paid her a salary, which was more than I earned in my job. She then used to tell her parents she needed extra money for course books and go spend it on booze. Her parents didn't want her to work because it would interfere with her studies. She got up so much on booze and drugs that she ended up dropping out of college, and then they bought her a flat to live in. Story 7. I've worked at a private school in the UK this past year, and I have a few examples of kids just having no idea they were spoiled, which just made it worse. Mine is 16 years old, comes into school on Monday, complaining how unfair it was that his dad grounded him for crashing their plane. I asked him how bad it was, and he said it was only $40,000 worth of damage, which his dad can afford. So what's the problem? My jaw dropped. Another 16 years old asked me what I'm doing for the summer break. I tell him working mainly, with perhaps a weekend to visit a few friends. He could not wrap his head around why I wasn't traveling, going on holiday, etc. Then followed to go on about how he'd spend his summer at his private lake, saving the best one for last, folks. On his birthday, one of the 18 years old students received a chain of hotels, a fully operating 5-chain that would all be officially owned under his name. The nerve of this kid to complain it wasn't what he wanted made me really resent working there for a while. Edit to those doubting the truthfulness of these statements. This was the only 3 outlandish moments I had over the year, so out of 800 kids, it's a small percentage. And to clarify, the 18 years old with the hotel was not expected to run it. He simply would get the owner share of the profits from then on. Story 8. My brother. He has this notion that because he's adopted, our parents owe him forever. He treats them like garbage, and they do all they can to help him and his son. He's a 27-year-old man-child, and I can't stand him. And in case anyone's curious, I'm adopted too, though we're not related by blood. I love my parents and just see them as normal parents. Story 9. A girl I have known most of my life. Her parents treat her like she's the Queen of England or something. Growing up, if there was a new toy out that she wanted, her parents bought her 5, and if possible, in each color because she would break her toys. She had 2 to 3 bedrooms. One was big enough to be a studio apartment alone. Where did she sleep? Her parents' bedroom. If she wanted to go somewhere like Disney World, her parents dropped everything to start planning that vacation. When she started driving, she had 3 new cars in 8 months. Not because she crashed them or they broke down, but because she just had to have the newest model. I think she's on her 15th car now. Never has had a job. Her parents pay for her, and now her son. In school, she had a tutor, I say in quotes because the tutor just did her homework for her. I'm surprised she can even read and write. Honestly, although reading her Facebook statuses shows me she can't write much better than my 9-year-old, the worst part was, if she didn't like someone, she had her parents do their best to try to ruin that person's life. She got her 7th grade teacher fired, claiming he was being inappropriate with her. He wasn't. He never was in a room with her alone. He was a kind old man, but he didn't put up with her not doing her homework. He failed her in a few subjects. He was never charged or arrested or anything, no legal trouble from it. But the school did force him into retirement because they were scared. Story 10, my cousin who's 8 years old. My aunt is to blame for his spoiledness, though. He cannot accept no for an answer, for example. Every time he goes to the store with my aunt, he gets a toy or a game. And if he goes with me or my grandparents or other aunt and we tell him, no, you're not getting a toy game, we're just here to pick some groceries, and the boy throws the biggest tantrums. It's so embarrassing. Also, because of this, he always has to win whenever we play a game. Now, not that I try to win all the time, but when I play a video game or board game, I play it usually with his twin sister, who is a bit of a drama queen, but is really mellow compared to him. We were playing the Star Wars Millennium Falcon game, and his sister had one, and he said, no, I win, and proceeded to knock over all hers and my pieces, to which I scolded him, telling him that wasn't nice since he had upset his sister, and I told him to apologize, to which he did, but still. I've heard from his sister that his friends at school don't really like to play sports or games with him, because if that, I feel bad for him, to be honest. My aunt kind of screwed him up, I feel, by giving in to every demand he wanted his whole life, and am worried how badly ITLL affect him as he gets older. Story 11, my friend's roommate and childhood best friend. She moved to New York after living with her family and working retail after graduating high school. And according to my friend, was handed everything to her you can imagine. If she wanted shampoo, she had her parents leave immediately and get it for her. She literally doesn't know how to contribute to a household. Her parents out takeout and junk food and ready meals so often that she legitimately didn't know what olive oil was used for. She's moving back home with them, and all I can say is good riddance. She's too stupid to be breathing in precious oxygen. Story 12, let me tell you about a fellow I've known for almost 30 years, who is yet to grow up. We'll call him Bullshit for reasons I'll explain later. Bullshit has a very wealthy family, courtesy of his dad's government work. For some reason, his parents fell in love with the small town I'm from, and moved the family from the big city to our fly-speck town. When they first moved, they had Bullshit and his brother in a private school, but eventually moved him to public school. I was introduced to him by a mutual friend, and he ended up in a lot of my classes, and we bonded together over being comic book and RPG fans. Bullshit's parents were incredibly free with their money toward their sons. There were literally entire rooms of their house devoted to everything the kids bought. In high school, I worked out Bullshit was getting around $500 a month to buy comics with, and the same again to buy video games. After high school, his parents pay for the entirety of his college education. During his 4 years of college, he has a job for 1 day, which his father got him. He nopes out after 1 day, complaining that he had to work with people that smoked. They didn't smoke around him, but he could smell it on their clothes, and that was unacceptable. After college, he moves back to the area, his boyfriend in tow. His family supports both of them in an apartment for several months before he finally lands his job. I don't know whether his father helped him get the job, but the fact that he bragged for the first year about sleeping at his desk regularly makes me suspect he helped him find employment. Then things change. His brother, who was always the favored son, gets elevated even further in their parents' eyes. They give him a house, among other things, and the gravy train Bullshit has had begins to dry up. This is when Bullshit gets the name Bullshit. You see, in Bullshit's mind, since his parents are no longer subsidizing his life, it's up to the rest of the world to bend over backwards for him. You're out to eat with him, and you have leftovers. You should give them all to him. You got a computer game or e-format book he wants. You should make him a copy. You're playing a role-playing game. You should memorize exactly how his character works and tell him what he can do each round if he forgets about it. On top of you playing your character or running the game. You have family emergency and can't make it to an event he's at. You should ignore your flesh and blood and come out with him. For more years than I can remember, anytime anyone refused one of his self-serving demands, he would get enraged, sometimes to the point of throwing things, sometimes to the point of leaving. Without fail, he would shout Bullshit at the top of his lungs every time, at a decibel level you would never expect from a man his size. Eventually, we all got tired of his behavior, and one night, as he began a tantrum, everyone present shouted Bullshit at him in perfect unison. even mimicking the gestures he always made. There was no pre-planning, we just all got tired of his behavior and snapped on him simultaneously. He mellowed after that. I cut him out of my life for several years. For reasons related to his boyfriend, he's been reappearing in my circle of friends for the last year. Though he frequently ghosts on them, I understand he's out with his parents whenever he does this. And I suspect he's hoping to become the favorite son again and have his gravy train restored. Story 13 during one of my substitute teaching assignments. I had the joy of meeting the most spoiled teenage I had ever encountered before or since. Conrad was spoiled in a way only children of two rich divorced parents can be. Conrad was an only child whose parents used material goods and money to buy his affection. On the first day of this particular sub-job, Conrad informed me he didn't have to do his work. He would just get his father to pay the teacher a shitload of money, and he would get an A. I stated I didn't care what he did as long as he did not disturb his classmates and wrote his comments in my subnotes. He was placated for the day and dinked around on his cell phone until the period ended. The second day really showed Conrad's true colors. The class was supposed to do group work, and he was working with a group of his friends. He spent the work time continuously talking about how much he hated his mom because she bought him a used 2013 Ford Focus for his 16th birthday. Instead of a brand new BMW that he wanted, I made a comment that I would love if my parent gifted me a fairly new used vehicle, to which he commented, "Of course you would. You're a teacher and poor." I told him to get back to work, and if I caught him off task again, he would need to work alone. He was fine after that. The third and final day of my assignment, Conrad was in an absolute tizzy about something his mother had done, probably the BMW thing. Ick or care. What I did care about was that he kept commenting on how he was going to sabotage his mother's plane so that would fall out of the sky and die. I told him to rein in those comments as they were not appropriate for school and could get him in serious trouble. I left him with his group to continue work from the previous day. Approximately 5 minutes later, I hear nervous laughter coming from Conrad's group. He has his phone out and is showing the group something on it. I walked over and asked to see what was causing such a fuss. Conrad the idiot showed me his Snapchat story, which consisted of a picture he took of his mother with an emoji gun pointed at her head and the text him a shoot this. I got to send him to the office, talk to the school social worker and the school resource officer. All because this kid didn't get a BMW and his parents couldn't be arsed to show him some actual love and affection for his entire life. TLDR kid didn't get a BMW and threatened to kill his mother repeatedly. Story 14, my half-brother genetically. His mother was so proud that she raised him, birth to teens, without ever chastising him or punishing him. His adoptive father was meek enough to go alone with his wife's parenting. Half-bro never had time out or talks about what he had done, etc. Not once his household. Oh, I was made to play with him because we were kind of the same age, and I tried to get out of it constantly. He was a terror at school from day one. Even in high school, he hadn't had enough discipline in school to make up for lost time and did stuff like shoot sharp pencils and bits of glass at other students. Funny story, once he missed so badly that he shot himself in the eyeball. I'll laugh more than I should have at that. I think his teacher did too, before calling it a medical thing. Story 15, my girlfriend's former best friend. She was a single child, her parents have a lot of money, and they have bought her multiple cars. She's gotten into countless car collisions where she was at fault. Her parents paid for her traffic school courses. She doesn't pay rent, despite working a job that pays $60K. The list is endless. I really wouldn't care if she didn't look down on literally everyone else that has to actually work for what they have. She also used her looks to get a promotion at a previous job that we both worked at in high school. The list can basically go on forever. Story 16, hope I'm not too late. Let me tell you about Rebecca, single mom, who is a lawyer for a big phone company. Rebecca is the youngest child with a large gap, so she's basically an only child. Here are a few things that happened in the year we were friends. If formatting is weird on mobile, mom would always buy her Cadillacs, and she would wreck them within 6 to 8 months. Has worked at 2 different locations of the chain restaurant we worked at together. Has been fired from one twice and the other where we met 4 times. For reason below, shows up to work 2 to 3 hours late and is never in uniform. So she spends an hour in the restroom getting ready. This happened more frequently than her actually showing up on time. Only reason she even worked to begin with was her mom wouldn't pay for her job. She did her enough to get them, and they're not very good. After she's been fired once, she'll wait until there are new managers at the store, high turnover rate apply, and be hired again. Rebecca is in college getting her undergrad. She's currently 24, but cannot pass most of her undergrad classes. She has stated multiple times to multiple people that she expects the university she attends to pay for her doctorate degree, that she will complete by the time she is 26, a doctorate degree in 2 years without being able to pass undergrad classes. Okay. emailed the same university, literally emailed university mail address, to request them to buy a multi-million-dollar mansion for her, so she can start an orphanage. She sent links of said mansion with the email. When she didn't get any result from the university, she emailed Harvard wanting to apply. She posted the email on Snapchat, and the first line read something like, "I know I don't have the best grades, but I'll be a great addition to the community." Harvard has not responded. Her mom bought her a very large house in a nice neighborhood, so she could get away from her controlling boyfriend. He asked her to get a job to pay her part of the bills, so she begged her mom to buy her this house. The last I've heard of her is she ran her car into the boyfriend's house, and then texted him saying, "Hope you like the new decor. Kiss my rich." He has a restraining order against her, and the detective he hired said they could bury her rich. Story 17, a friend of mine, and her friends. I'll include a few examples off the top of my head. She was talking with her mother once on how she needed to bring $1,300 to go to a birthday party. She goes to Disneyland quite regularly. Tickets are quite expensive where I am, and brings several $100s for expenses on the day. She regularly buys luxury handbags or collections in the 40s, and she calls the $3 to $5K bags the cheap ones, and she has to have a different one for every time. She hangs out with one of her group of friends. From what she says, a friend of hers, let's call her Courtney, checked that it's a different bag, and she can feel whether it's real leather if it's not a new expensive handbag. Then she spills certain confessions you told her. Courtney once killed a cat by shoving it down a sewer pipe or something like that, because it was annoying her. Courtney also stole money from a beggar and then burned it. You could get nothing with 10. Might as well burn it. She's thrown eggs at people who are part of the groups listed below. I hate fat, non-white, part of LGBT, poor, nerds, gamers, people with glasses, and anyone suffering a midlife crisis. They take trips overseas along with their friend group every few months because they feel like it. My friend, last I heard, has to lie to Courtney about where she lives as it's not a rich neighborhood. And by rich, I mean that the houses are tens of millions of USD. Minimum, that's all I remember. My friend told me all this a few months ago, so I'm sure some details have slipped out. More examples on Courtney, not my friend. Now that my mind is clearer, she's bullied LGBT friends to suicidal thoughts and brags about it. As you see, I have power over people. She tried to poison her brother for cash. 1,000 shoes. Cheap. One could afford better. Takes the food of people poorer than she is. Story 18, ill volunteer someone I know. However, I think she deserves it. She was a teen mom, got married at 17, husband cheated, she divorced him, and he took off. A month after her divorce, she meets a man. He seems nice, but she was not into him. She tried to ditch this guy after a couple unsuccessful forced dates. He instead would show up at her house and cry to her mom. Cue holiday season. Her mom invites older creep, then screams at her to go to his family's Christmas because he told everyone she was going. She not being able to make decisions on her own since her mother was very forceful with. She got drunk that night because her mother locked her out of the house. So she had to stay at his. He forced her into. She got pregnant. She told her mom when she found out she was pregnant, she couldn't keep this child. She thought her mom would understand she can't have another child without being prepared. She tried everything, including booking an abortion, and was going to move out of her mother's. The creepy old told her mom her plan. She ended up being forced to have the baby. The man was allowed to spend nights, no matter what she did, begging and crying. Her mother didn't care, called her A&it. Eventually, she had enough and was able to get her old job back and move out. He would park in front of her house. He would not leave her alone. Her mother eventually broke her down. She agreed to marry the guy. She lost her job. She was going to lose her house, her kids. Her mother threatened her with everything under the sun. Her mother told her no man would ever look at her, and she would be alone raising 2 kids as trash. She was told 2 kids from 2 different dads labeled you a complete. She married the man, 17 years older than her. She gave up and gave in. Her wedding night, he sat on her and backhanded her for not wanting to have with him. The day after she married him, something snapped in her. Her mother tried to exercise her power over her, but it didn't work. She told both it wasn't going to happen. She gained the strength to leave him and her mother. She knew a lawyer who was able to get spousal and child support. She met a man. He was good to her, helped her move out. She left everything she owned with her newly ex-husband. She went to counseling and realized all the damage the old creep and her mother had done. She got help. She kept the man who helped her around. He didn't get involved with the kids, and he kept his distance for 3 years. They somewhat dated and realized they loved each other very much. However, it just wasn't working for them. He was a bit selfish, and she knew she had to let him go. She knew he was a great support, but he didn't fully respect her at times. This man went away to work for months 1 year, and she left him 34s of the way through. When he was about to return back, he came back with a vengeance. He sent 10 bouquets of flowers, a diamond bracelet, wrote several cards, showed up crying on her doorstep, begging for a chance to be the man she deserved, admitting his wrong. They talked it out, they tried it out. It worked. He was dedicated and loyal, caring, and gave so much attention to her and her kids. He proposed to her in a castle in the mountains with over a carat diamond ring. She said yes. They found out she was pregnant. He was excited. They bought a house, moved in together, planned their wedding. He let her choose the house. He bought her a brand new car. He gave her a credit card she racks up, and he pays off monthly. He treats her like a queen, expensive purses, beautiful jewelry. He buys her everything. She doesn't ever want any of it, but he wants to spoil her and brings it back for her. When he comes home from work overseas, she doesn't have to work ever again or even get a college education. She's pregnant with his second child. This is her fourth child. He's ecstatic. She's ecstatic. She is spoiled rotten. They're looking into getting a live-in nanny. However, she deserves it. Story 19, probably myself. Of everyone I really know, and the only child, didn't grow up rich by any means, single-parent dad never around, nor provided any money, working-class household, and also lived with us. But she came to live with us, but I had a lot of toys and games growing up. Think my mom didn't really get much for herself or the flat. If I wanted something, there was a good chance I'd get it within reason. Story 20, my coworker. When I complimented her ring, which features a mid-sized emerald stone, she said, "Thanks, my dad bought it for me for my 16th birthday." I said, "Wow." 16, she said, "Yeah, it's no big deal. My dad has a jeweler he really likes it's totally normal for a father to buy several precious stones as jewelry for his teenage daughter. Also, she's a horse girl, so, edit, sure, emeralds aren't that expensive, but the fact that she thinks everyone's dad has a gem guy is what I was referring to." Story 21, my friend. She gets whatever she wants, whether it be tickets to expensive foreign concerts, albums, photo books of music artists, a new car. When she totaled her first one, I was in the car when it happened, and she ran a red light like a freaking idiot, and she never does anything around the house. I was talking with her, and her parents were amazed by the fact that I actually do chores around my house. Story 22, least spoiled person I know. She comes from a family with tremendous means, has had every major purchase provided for her college, housing, automobiles, her kids' educations, autos, and housing, etc. She went to school to be a teacher, taught in a very poor, mostly African-American neighborhood. She fed the kids out of her own pocket every day and helped each of them learn tools to succeed in school and life. Trained as a school counselor, worked with the most disadvantaged kids, helping them move through alternative high school and graduate. Got her master's in counseling, worked at a grade school with disadvantaged kids. Donated several large gifts anonymously for new playground equipment, music tools, art supplies, and tools, etc. She doesn't have to work, but she enjoys it, and she's good at it. Kids from 25 years ago get into contact with her to let her know they're married, had kids, made their first million, got dream jobs, traveled. She's one of the kindest people I've ever known. I've known her all my life. Her siblings are similarly kind, generous, and personable. Great family. Story 23, I had a friend, let's call him Brian, in middle school who got whatever that he wanted. For example, I got a Game Boy Advance for Christmas one year. I brought it in for show until after winter break. Poor Brian was still rocking a Game Boy Color, was quite jealous. The very next day, he had a Game Boy Advance. Also, his mom packed his lunch every day, per his specifications. It usually was beef jerky, Nutter bars, and 2 packs of Peasy. Story 24, my cousin's daughter is the worst spoiled brat I've ever encountered. My boyfriend only refers to her as Satan. She and her mom live in my aunt and uncle's house. The father was a nice enough, hard-work guy who owned a business and got along well with the family. For whatever reason, there was some blowout fight that ended their marriage, and he lost custody. To make up for everything that my little second cousin went through, my first cousin gave her everything she asked for and didn't ask for. They had a don't-say-no policy with her, which has turned her into a selfish little. If the little one wants to eat chips for dinner, she gets to eat a whole family-sized bag of Lay's for dinner with a bowl of ice cream on the side. The kid wants a new kitten, screw the old cat. Let's get a kitten, oh, she screams that her friend has a pool, and she wants one. Guess we're digging up the backyard and installing a pool. The latest issue was she wanted to sleep over on a school night with all her friends and made my uncle drive all over town to pick these girls up at their houses and take them out for pizza. My cousin makes very little money, so everything is coming out of my aunt and uncle's pockets. They both should have retired by now, but they can't. Story 25, probably my ex. Her dorm room was absolutely covered in trash, probably 2 to 3 inches deep. At no point would you ever actually walk on bare floor. She was that way because she was used to her parents and weekly maid cleaning up after her, so she had just throw trash everywhere. She lived off her mother's credit card and apparently spent $800 a month on fast food. Had her college tuition paid for by her mother, then dropped out 3 years in after we split, and she moved out of my place because we couldn't stand each other anymore. She went and lived with her mom. As far as I know, she's still living in her mother's basement rent-free 7 years later. I think what irritated me even more about her is that she's one of those pull yourself up by your bootstraps sort of people that have never needed to lift a finger to do anything in their entire lives. But to be fair, she was very pretty. Story 26, my mom's old good friend, was one of the most spoiled brats I know. She grew up poor, humble, and lived on a farm, worked hard to support herself, and eventually was the first one in her family to go to college. Mom said that she was the smartest girl and had everything going for her. Then she met a man who was almost twice in her age, and they got married when she was 25. He wasn't rich, but had enough money to support her, so she quit school and became a som. The husband died when she was 29, and she found herself a single mom with a very large insurance policy. Enough for her to travel around the world and buy a few mansions if she wanted. Mom said that money changed her, but I think it drew out her real personality to the surface. She treated people like servants, only associated with the best brands, and would throw tantrums if things didn't go her way. I met her and her two daughters a few times. She would comment about my clothes, lifestyle, and that it was so sad my mom didn't have enough money to use on me. That it was so unfortunate my mom had to work and couldn't give me a free house like she did her own kids. I'm like, you got money from your husband? The same husband who was driving in the rain, the night he died, to go visit his lover because he couldn't stand your whiny, limpy cold anymore. I don't see her as much anymore, thank God. Last I heard, she had lost most of her money due to carelessly spending it and had to move out of state to get away from the debt collectors. Good riddance. Story 27, not a child, but an ex-friend who probably was never really a friend, but a narcissist. This girl is married to my husband's former coworker. They were in the same shop on base in the military. They weren't like super best friends, but they were in the same platoon from the schoolhouse all the way to be stationed at the same base in Cali. Anyways, that's how we all know each other. So this girl, her, and the guy start dating and have a FWB situation. She gets pregnant and decides to have an abortion without telling him. She tells him after she does it, and he's kind of like, oh, okay, like it was some big news, but they were both 19 and stupid. So he let it be. Then, not long after this, she decides she wants a baby, gets super crazy possessive and bitchy towards him, gains about 100 pounds in 6 months, no joke. Girl went from being like 140 to near 250 in less than years. She tells him she wants a baby, so hey, start trying immediately to get pregnant. He thought tea was a bad idea, but for some reason, she convinced him they should try. He lets her move in his barracks room because he has no roommate. This isn't allowed, mind you. And he could have got in trouble for this. Also never really mentions her weight gain. He gains about 15 pounds and breaks loose. She tells him that he's not allowed to eat junk food. She takes his debit card from him, so he can't buy food at work, watches him like a hawk at home, forbidding him to eat things and limiting him to a can of soda a day. Yet she's eating pie for breakfast and Taco Bell for dinner and large slushies and ice creams. Her excuse was that his job requires him to be in shape. She doesn't need to watch herself. He buys her literally anything she wants and lets her walk all over him. If she wants to go on a trip to Disney World, a few-hour drive, he takes her. If she wants to buy a new wardrobe, even though they have no money, he gives her his money. There were times he would give her a limit of only 50, and she'd spend 150 on clothes and makeup, and he'd just kind of laugh about it and compliment her clothes. He claimed that he was the man and didn't think his wife should have to work, so he didn't mind that she was basically an unhealthy spoiled brat. She wanted a dog, so he bought her S puppy that she pretty much abused, and they gave him away a month later. That girl got that man wrapped around her finger. Story 28, my wife, because I do. She was deprived enough as a child to end up with mental illness. She worked for 20 years to crawl out of it. I taught her to count change. When she was 15, I was 17. I helped her through her GED, through her EMT, and her CNA cert. She's nearly graduated college, but was declared mentally retarded in 3rd grade because of severe neglect. So she gets to be my spoiled little princess. Her genealogy traces back far enough to prove that she is descended and actually entitled to be a princess. I only really spoil her in ways she had trouble with self-care. Wipe with her condition BPD often don't feed themselves well, can be messy, disorganized, etc. I remove all the guilt associated with her inability in these areas while she slowly is encouraged to help herself. She's spoiled in a very unique way. Also, she has a permanent get-out-of-jail-free card. When she has an episode, she could say very mean, very wrong, very damaging things to me. Most people would never put up with that. And rightly so, no one is obligated to take abuse from anyone ever. But in order to overcome her fear of abandonment, I've promised, written in stone, that I will never leave her no matter what mistake she makes. I have other boundary consequences instead. Some boundary are set up to be intentionally broken, so she can satisfy her need for punishment, spankings, shit's complicated, and it'll do it for her. Because I spoil her, I didn't break her, she came that way. And there's no fixing, just accepting. People can fix themselves if given a safe environment to do so. Edit, I should note that she has earned being spoiled and does so every day. She gives TLC to 20 dying elderly folks every day. She has the hardest job on earth cleaning feces from people who are in excruciating pain, and she does so with a smile and love at her voice. So got it. She deserves to get some of that TLC back.